When Koto enters the arena, the claws come out. Here's your look at the upcoming Kotobukiya Darkstalkers Bishoujo statue of Felicia. Based on the original illustration by Shunya Yamashita, the innocent and overwhelmingly cheerful Catwoman from Darkstalkers Felicia is here. With an energetic and playful pose, Felicia is now joining the Bishoujo series. Her squishy toe beans and fluffy fur show off the Catwoman's cute side, while her toned muscles and the sharp claws extending from her hands and feet give you a glimpse into her ferocious side. This detailed statue perfectly captures the character's duality. The statue's cute pink base also resembles the game stage. Or meows in a moment. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Kotobukiya that did provide this early sample copy of the Darkstalkers Bishoujo statue of Felicia. Now we can have a look at this video. She is slated to release the fourth quarter of 2022 with a price point on average about $139.99, which is on average what you would expect to pay for a Bishoujo statue. Felicia going to take the tape measure and measure to the top of her hair. She has quite a lot of it after all. This statue stands about 9.5 inches in height, or she's about 23.5 centimeters tall. Then, to compare Felicia with another Darkstalkers Bishoujo statue we've looked at lately here on this channel, here's what she looks like next to Morgan. Now, I would have said that Morgan is the slightly smaller statue, and she is technically still, but I would also say because Morgan is also crouched down, which is also why she ends up being a shorter statue than Felicia. I think, though, if Morgan was standing as straight as Felicia, whether she's got her arms extended out to claw somebody or not, Morgan would probably make, though, for a taller-looking character, but in this case, she is a shorter statue than Felicia. When you first retrieve Felicia from her clear tray, don't forget to also retrieve this. Kotobukiya have included in this case for this statue an actual supporting acrylic stand. This actually helps to hold the hair. And while it may not look like the statue has a whole lot of hair to worry about, when you actually spin the statue around, you realize that the angle that they've sculpted the statue, not to mention so much volume of hair behind it, it's putting a lot of stress against the neck and also the one ankle, the only thing that's really holding the statue upright. There is some instructions, I have to admit, though. It's a single sheet, by the way. Well, it's a little clearer here. Honestly, no pun intended, it gets a little grayer here exactly where it's supposed to go. It's a prong, and it's supposed to fit in between the bulk of the hair and where the curly bits start. So I'm just going to move this to the side and show you exactly where I think it's supposed to go. First of all, when you look at the prong, it's angled either down or it's angled up. You're supposed to use it from the down angle. And when you are sliding in place, again, based on the instructions provided, I think you're supposed to fit it in between this opened area of the loop of the tail, and then it's supposed to wedge in between. Let me see if I can actually get it in there. It's supposed to wedge actually just underneath. See the main body of the hair right here, the main bulk of it at least, and then you've got these curled bits right here. I think that's where it's supposed to go. Now, it's a lot easier, obviously, to do this when I've got it on a tabletop, but this just slides underneath. And then, of course, you're going to want to just make sure it's straight. If it's not straight, then it's going to look a little bit more warped. But that's what it's supposed to look like, again, based on what I'm thinking, based on the instructions. Now, obviously, I'm going to follow the instruction when it comes to displaying Felicia on the shelf, because I think it may be like long-term, yes, the weight of the hair may start to warp maybe the body. Maybe it's going to start swaying back a little bit. So that's probably one of the reasons why they were smart enough to include it, and why it's probably a good idea to include it. I will leave it off, granted, for the rest of this video, but it is going to come back in final looks. I'm just going to take it off right now because I feel it's going to be so much easier to actually look at the details on the statue. So we're going to put that to the side for the time being. Such details, I certainly did want to point out, a nice perfect touch by Kotobukiya was that they actually found a way to incorporate the Darkstalkers level design for Felicia actually into the display base. This octagonal display base contained inside does have smaller triangles in peach and pink, and this actually mirrors the flooring that she has in the level. The only thing missing from this is obviously the blinking neon cat sign that's behind her, but I love the idea that they found a way to incorporate that into the display base. Granted, yes, the pink I think probably could have been a tad bit darker pink, but I love the idea that they found a way to incorporate that. As we move, though, a little bit further up to get a closer look at the head sculpt for Felicia, I am really impressed with this one. Now, it does check the boxes of what you would expect with a Bishoujo statue, so overly large eyes. But really, when you already have the details in place for both Morgan and Felicia, who already start to have features like that, I think it's a nice, simple transition from the character in the video game to an actual statue of them. One thing that's notable also about Felicia is being that she is a cat person, cat woman. Instead of actually having pupils, she has slits instead. I think those look really nice. And you can also see as well, there's a little bit of reflection. The little white circles of white up at the top corner there just adds a little bit of personality to it. It's a very cleanly painted statue. One thing that's ongoing I've noticed with all the Bishoujo statues we looked at here on the channel, the paint is handled extremely well here. She does have what I'm guessing to be fangs, as you can probably see here from the side. She does also have a slightly lighter pink tongue to the darker inside of her mouth being the pink. And then she has some really nice, though a little harder to see and harder to make out, a nice pair of lips also on her face as well. Slightly smaller nose. She does have, again, the painted in their eyelashes and eyebrows, very nicely handled. And one of the things also with Felicia is the fact that being a cat person, she does have the cat ears, which has been very softly painted in a nice brushing of pink. You can see a little bit of fur on the inside of her ears there. Just such a beautiful looking head sculpt here. Now, the thing about this statue, as you probably had already saw at the beginning of this review, is there are some fragile components to it. Hopefully, as you also saw at the beginning of this video, Kotobukiya really carefully packaged everything. The tail and all of these blue strands that stick out from her head. Some of them, like this one here, for example, reaches quite far away from her hair, that it was nice to see that they actually took the time to wrap those very carefully. Just, though, be careful when it comes to removing them. Don't tug them abruptly in case these do snap. Very strong contenders, I think, these lighter strands are to be breaking. But the hair is sculpted extremely well, too. You've got these tiny little curls that stick out the side of her face. One little curl right here just above her ear, and a big curl of hair that actually jets out the front of her face there as well. Not only do I like the volume that they've added to the hair, but I also like the colors they chose too. You sort of start with more of a medium brown, or medium blue, I should say, and then they've added more of a purple-based blue to kind of fill in some of those recessed sections. It does make for a very volume-looking hair, but a pretty-looking hair as well. Obviously, in the case here of Felicia, we're going to state the obvious. She doesn't have much in the way of clothing. First of all, her skin tone is a little bit more darker than what we got with Morgan. Morgan went with more the lighter color to match her vampire-like personality. Felicia being a cat person, she can go with a more darker coloring of skin. And there's certainly a lot more happening here than when we looked at the Morgan. The parts they least colored of a costume, what you can say little of a costume, they've painted the white extremely nice. All of the white actually has either gray added to it, or in the cases of like the arms, for example, they've added and airbrushed a little bit of blue there too. You see a lot more of the blue when it comes to actually to her thigh highs. I guess these would be thigh high cat booties, adding a little bit of nice purple added in there as well. I do like the touch of actually having the paws, the pads of the paws, that's a lot of P's, actually sticking up from the surface of the hands. So they're not just simply painted in there, they're actually sculpted to be lifted as well. You can see each of the individual nails all nicely handled here in red. And a nice little touch I like to see is the little tuft of hair that they got sticking out from the side. Though it would be so easy to draw your attention away from the arms, they've actually sculpted the arms with a little bit of fur on there. A little bit of fur also there on her booties as well. And then, of course, one other thing that she also has, like in the game, she does have a big, long, stretching tail that sticks out the back of, well, her behind, and then wraps around the front of the figure's body. Again, something that you're going to want to be a little bit more careful of. You can see that I'm moving it, not most confidently, but I'm still moving. And you can see, like, there is a little bit of give to it, but something certainly like the hair, the little strands of blue that we looked at already, something that could be very easily broken if you're not too careful. Overall, it's just, again, a great-looking statue. Just bringing back in Morgan here for a second, as we certainly did have a look at her in the earlier review. Again, I really like the color changes between the two characters. They, of course, match their video game counterparts really nicely, while Morgan went with more the blues, the pinks, or the lighter shades, I should say, of greens, pinks, and purples. Felicia's got definitely a lot more of the darker blues happening for her hair. The hair has also been sculpted extremely well, and certainly has a lot more volume as well when you compare it to what we got with Morgan. while I think I still kind of lean more, I think, towards this idea of my favorite of the two that they've done so far, thus far, I got to say I really got to award it to Kotobukiya for, once again, delivering a great-looking sculpt on both of the statues we've looked at so far. And again, the paint is delivered in both the cases extremely nicely. Again, when you get to actually getting down to the costumes, Felicia, you can definitely say, has a lot less costuming than what we actually got for Morgan. But what there is of costuming, what little there is of costuming, has been nicely painted in both the white. And, you know, in both the cases, too, like, the paint's really, really been cleanly applied. I don't, in either of the cases, as you probably hopefully saw in these videos, the paint doesn't look like it's bled anywhere. There's no improper paint places where paint has ended up onto like the skin of Felicia for like such small real areas really on what makes up her costuming. None of the white has actually bled onto her body, and I think that's again a nice looking touch. Still though, while I think I kind of like this one a little bit more, I think Kotobukiya has done though a great job on the new Darkstalkers Felicia statue. So once again, if you guys are interested and would like to get your hands on the new Bishoujo statue of Darkstalkers Felicia, she is slated to release the fourth quarter of 2022, with many of the online sites that you generally will go to buy your Bishoujo statues all pre-ordering this statue at that $139, about that $140 price point, which is on average really what you expect to pay generally when it comes to these Bishoujo statues, about $139.99. One thing also here for final looks, I brought back that clear supporting post. One thing, it's not all that intrusive anyways, being that they used a clear acrylic. Yeah, you notice it from the back, but certainly if you're going to be looking at the statues from the front, which I would hope to think that that's the way you can be displaying your statues, you'd really be none the wiser to even notice that there's a post there in the first place. One thing I also did notice too, is that where I showed you in the review, it sort of hooks in between, well, I showed you where it was supposed to go. If you go actually just a little bit further back, just like a hair, literally a hair back from that, there's actually a little bit more of a recessed section where the hair goes up just a little bit higher, and when you put it in that section, actually it will result in the post not looking as much as like it was bulging out like it did in the review. Like I said, it's there just in place so that it helps to support the hair, because you have so much volume after all on the back of the statue's body. You need a little bit of help, and I'm glad to see that they actually took the time to include that with the statue. You can go ahead and not use it, but I would probably stress, if you're looking to pick up the statue for yourself, use it if it's included. That's my way of thinking. If it's included by the company, there's a reason why it's included by the company. And again, being that it's clear plastic, you'd never see it either from the front anyways. A really nice looking statue. One thing I didn't also talk too much about in this review, because I certainly talked so much about the paint and the sculpting, but one thing I also really like about this is the pose. A very playful pose on Felicia. Of course, being that she's a cat person, she does have her claws extended out. I don't know if I want to be getting too close to that. She's probably going to be tearing me up, but I like the way they've sculpted each of the fingers all extending out like that. And even by even just resting her leg, resting all her weight on the one leg and her other leg being up, it again really makes for a playful looking statue and plays very well into the character of Felicia. Once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Kotobukiya that did take the time and provide this early sample copy of Felicia from Darkstalkers that we can have a look at in this video. What do you guys think of the statue? Let me know down below in the comments section. And perhaps, of the two statues we've looked at so far, thus far, both the Morgan and the Felicia, which one do you guys like more? Let me know down below in the comments section. And certainly as well, if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you're seeing and do want to stick around for more, because we are going to be looking at more Kotobukiya releases, make sure you hit the ever crucial subscribe button down below. Make sure as well you're turning on the bell notification and making sure that you're coming back on a regular basis. Also, if you have a little bit of time on your paw hands right now, do you have paw hands? Okay, maybe not everybody does. If you have a little bit of time on your hands, popping up also at the very end of this video would be a playlist of other Kotobukiya things that I've looked at over the years. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.